high side. Murphy shooting, save a rebound on the view.
Hey everyone, this is Casey. You are watching the Red Rubber Duckwind All Sports Network. And it's finally time. It's the NFL playoffs. I'm going to be doing my NFL predictions shortly. However, I'm going to start previewing the Steelers and Ravens because it's one of the big marquee matchups in this year's playoffs. And it's also going to be the first playoff game on Prime Video. My parents are probably going to be upset because we don't have Prime Video, but I have a secret weapon, and that is Twitch. And they're probably going to be broadcasting the game on it for free like they do in the regular season. So, thank goodness for that. But it's Steelers and Ravens Part 3. If you recall earlier in the year, Week 11, it was the Steelers winning it, or I should say Chris Boswell himself winning it, 18-16. And of course, you know what happened in Baltimore in Week 16. The Steelers completely got their asses kicked by Baltimore 34-17. So this one is going to be the tiebreaker. And these two teams have had opposite ends to the season. Of course, the Steelers, they were at 10-3. They were 2 games above the Ravens in the AFC North at one point. And then they proceed to collapse, including that loss in Baltimore. And they finished 10-7 and they enter the playoffs on a 4-game skid. Meanwhile, the Ravens, they were at 8-5, 2 games below the Steelers, and they proceed to win 4 straight games, of course, with that win. And they get to keep the AFC North crown for another year, winning, going 12-5, and winning over the Steelers by two games. But yeah, it's going to be, you never know what's going to happen with Steelers and Ravens, because one game that looks like a blowout actually turns out to be one of the games of our time. And hopefully it turns into this. We'll see what happens. But let's go ahead and go over the teams. Let's start with the Baltimore offense, because they are one of the hottest offenses in the league. They had scored 31 or more points in 4 straight games, including 30 or more in 5 of their last 6 games. And it's due to a large part in their acquisition. They acquired Derrick Henry during the offseason, and they are 10-0 whenever Derrick Henry reaches 90 or more yards in a game. And all 5 losses that the Ravens have had came from when Derrick Henry got less than 90 yards. So if the Steelers defense wants to win, stopping Henry might be a good start. But they also have to focus on Lamar Jackson, because he's also a running back that just happens to be in a quarterback position. He has 915 rushing yards on the year, 6.6 yards per carry, which leads the league, and of course 4 rushing touchdowns on his own. In the passing game, he's had 41 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. He's been doing well in the air, and he's only taken 4 sacks over the last 4 games. That's how good the Ravens offensive line has been. Unfortunately, they're going to be without one of their big offensive weapons in Zay Flowers, but they still have a very dangerous receiving core. Of course, with the tight end Mark Andrews, 673 yards and 11 touchdowns, including 1 in 6 straight games, and Isaiah Likely with 477 yards and 6 touchdowns. Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Sorry, Red, but 2 tight ends. Sorry, had to do it. And, of course, Rashad Bateman with 756 yards and 9 touchdowns to complete the Baltimore offensive core. And, of course, you have the Steelers offense, who could only dream of such numbers if they are able to. Unfortunately, during their 4-game losing streak, all 4 games they have scored less than 18 points, and it includes less than 20 points in 6 of their last 8 games. Right now, Russell Wilson is going under a cold streak. He's been held to under 220 yards in 5 straight games. And last week against the Bengals, he ended up taking 4 sacks because the offensive line couldn't block. And as well, he has also taken 3 or more sacks in 3 straight games. And that started a lot of Steelers fans wanting Justin Fields to get in. But we're not sure where Tomlin's head's going to be at for Saturday's game. And last week, it saw the return of George Pickens. Unfortunately, he did not have a very triumphant return. He had 1 catch, but not 1 passing yard. But not 1 receiving yard. Not 1. And it also included 3 drops. And the only highlight you saw of Pickens was him flopping and, of course, picking fights with fans in the stands. Yeah, that might be a bit of a problem going forward, Pickens. You might need to get that checked out. And of course, but Pat Freiermuth has been a little bit brighter of a spot. He had 8 catches last week for 85 yards and a touchdown. And of course, you got the running back core of Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Najee Harris had yet another 1,000-yard season with 1,043 yards, including 6 touchdowns to his name. And, of course, Jaylen Warren is still as dangerous as ever with 4.3 yards per carry overall this year. Now, I mentioned the Steelers' defense earlier. They have to stop Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. And they are capable of it. Overall, they've given up 4.1 yards per carry. That's 5th in the league. And last week, they were able to get to Burrow 4 times, and that leads up to 40 sacks on the season. And they held Joe Burrow to 1 touchdown and 1 interception last week. But the Baltimore defense is proven to be a little bit stronger. Last week, they held the Browns to 10 points, and they held their opponents to less than 18 points in 4 straight games. And they've shown they have had all the momentum thus far. And the rushing defense is first overall with 3.6 yards per carry. And they are also second in the league in terms of sacks with 54. And Kyle Van Noy is a guy you need to watch out for with a sack in 5 straight games. So with that, it's Steelers and Ravens Part 3. Let's go ahead and do some predictions. So, I'm going to be mentioning the score during my NFL playoff predictions, but I figured I'd go more in depth in this one video because Steelers Ravens was just too big for just like a minute or 2 of talking, because it's still one of the classic rivalries in the NFL. And unfortunately, I have to pick against the Steelers because if you think about it, the Steelers have lost all momentum. I don't even know where their heads are at. And Baltimore has become one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. I'm going to say Baltimore wins this one 28-21. Do I want it to happen? Hell no. But do I think it's going to happen? Yeah, I think so. Now, last season, I did a charity drive where I did 17 different charities in 14 different cities because I wanted to highlight people that are doing great things everywhere. And I did do a charity in Buffalo when the Steelers made the playoffs. I figured I'd do it for Baltimore as well. For the Baltimore Ravens, for the 3rd time, I'm going to be doing the Johns Hopkins Children's Center. Founded in 1912 as the Children's Hospital at Johns Hopkins, the Johns Hopkins Children's Center offers one of the more comprehensive pediatric medical programs in the country, with more than 92,000 patient visits and nearly 9,000 admissions each year. I'm going to put the link to that in the description. And I'm going to also leave a link to the American Red Cross. I'm going to be finished with the hurricanes in the southeast. Instead, I'm going to be focusing on the wildfires that have been raging upon Los Angeles as of late. The whole city, whole neighborhoods in the city is going to take decades to rebuild. And I just want to send my thoughts over to those affected in Los Angeles. I really hope you can rebuild it sooner rather than later and try to get it contained. But right now it's not looking likely, and I really, really hope they're able to rebuild sooner rather than later. I'm sorry to use the same words over and over, but it's just tragic. It's tragic what's going on in Los Angeles. So I'm going to leave the link to the American Red Cross as they look to provide aid for those affected by the Los Angeles wildfires. And that will be in the description as well. But that's going to do it for me. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the Red Rubber Duckman All Sports Network. Be sure to stay tuned for my NFL playoff predictions as well. And be sure to be on the lookout for college football playoff streams as the national championship is coming up in 10 days. And that should be a good one regardless of who's in it. But that's going to do it for me. Until we meet again, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. And as always, let's go Steelers. This is going to be rough.